welcome.
Thanks.
I'm Owen O'Sullivan from NFT News Today, and I'm really happy to have with me today Joe Conyers III, who just a few months ago was named Executive Vice President and Global Head of NFTs at Crypto.com. Welcome, Joe. You're more than welcome. Really nice to have you on.
Thanks for having me. Excited to chat today.
So Joe is here to tell us about Crypto.com NFT, their platform, their marketplace, what they are doing now, what they have been doing, and their plans for the future. And hopefully Joe is also going to give us a little insight and maybe give his opinion on what he thinks is going to happen with NFTs in the next few years. So really, really excited. Let's get started. So before we get into Crypto.com NFT, Joe, can you give our viewers an introduction to yourself, your background, and what your role will be within Crypto.com NFT?
Yeah, so I joined crypto in March and have been building the platform ever since. Although I really was lucky to have a team already starting work on it. They have a huge product development team at crypto.com, as you might imagine,
Sure.
and they're always developing new products. And so we had a whole new ventures team that was already crafting what this platform looked like. And by the time I got there, and so certainly have had a hand in shaping it since then, which has been really exciting. But my background before this was in the music industry. So I helped build one of the largest independent music companies, music tech companies, I would say. It was called Downtown, and I started a business inside of that business called Song Trust, which was the largest royalty collection service for songwriters. All in all, Downtown touches probably 1 in 3 to 1 in 4 songs on Spotify in some way, shape, or form, whether it's monetization or playlist pitching or some other service that they're providing for creators. They also used to own a lot of IP. They sold a lot of their IP in around March or May, or so, say, for about 400 million bucks, and they're on track to do about half a billion in revenue. So pretty big music business.
Sure.
Was it did a lot of product development, R&D, mergers and acquisitions. Bought about $300 million worth of companies there. Got to know the creator space really well. It worked across both kind of really high-end creators at the Downtown music services side, which was they're working with John Lennon and Motley Crue and really the biggest songwriters and artists in the world, alongside a really large long tail community. So we bought a company called CD Baby, million artists, work with them. Bought another company that works with lots of labels called Fuga, and so really got to understand the different dynamics of working with creators across the whole spectrum. And that's really what we're doing here now at crypto.com. First, we launched with really high-end creators like Snoop Dogg, like K-Camp, working with premier sports teams. We're about to do something with the 76ers. We've announced NFTs with F1, with UFC. We've done stuff with Serie A, the league. And we've got just tons and tons of individual players. We got Gareth Bale coming up in a couple days.
All right, Joe. So let's move on to talk about Crypto.com NFT. So many of our viewers will be familiar with Crypto.com,
Of course.
including its millions of people and users who are buying and selling cryptocurrencies every day. But they may not know about the Crypto.com NFT platform. So, Joe, can you tell us what the Crypto.com NFT platform is all about, and how do you think it's going to stand out from the crowd?
Yeah, so we have a really curated approach. We do daily drops. Sometimes we do a couple drops a day, but generally there's a daily drop around 9 a.m. Sometimes we'll customize for if someone wants to run a party simultaneously, like we did this week with the professor, who is one of the old street ball and one players. He had all these celebrities at a big party last night, and so he wanted to do it at noon. And these are the kind of events we want to do every day. We want to have this really curated, interesting experience. Generally, these things sell out super fast. Like, so today's drop this morning sold out in 2 minutes.
Wow.
And so they're very coveted, and we're keeping things rare and small in a way that makes sense for the size of the creator. We're trying to introduce new creators to collectors, but we're also bringing
Sure.
existing brands into the space and taking people maybe they did an NFT somewhere else sometimes, and working with them, maybe trying to do something new and interesting. We're a bit differentiated in the sense that we were committed to being carbon negative by within 18 months.
Yeah,
and that would be, really great because our chain is already pretty, it's proof of
absolutely.
stake,
Yeah.
so easy to, manage from an electricity perspective already.
Mm.
It's very cheap to mint, right? So it doesn't cost anything to mint on our platform. We recently opened it up to new creators as well, so anyone can now mint as a non-curated, creator. There's no minting fees, and right now we're just approving a very small batches of folks, but we'll eventually open it up more and provide more curation and like think about how we upstream those folks to be curated by drops or featured or
Yeah.
merchandised in other ways. And so I think we have this just massive audience built in from crypto.com. So that kind of gives us a big cheat code and just
Mm.
helping these creators find an audience. And so we can take a little risk in working with new creators, but also bring beloved brands and folks to market in a way that is really um, simple for their audience to understand, right? It's crypto.com. It doesn't feel like some scammy website, right? It is like very legitimate. Our team takes everything very seriously from a compliance perspective. The other nice thing is we allow for Visa and MasterCard purchases alongside, paying with your crypto.com wallet, or I think through Wallet Connect to tons and tons of other, standard wallets like Rainbow and MetaMask. So really easy to pay, simple and easy to use. And we like to think the experience is just really a good UX. As we have a nice, clean user experience, constantly looking to improve that. And so, that kind of thoughtful product development, thoughtful curation mixed with audience is where I think we've been successful so far, and I think we'll be successful in the future.
Sounds great. Yeah, I was going to talk to you about so the selection process. Really, that was something
Yeah.
that I found interesting. Um, so it says on some of your blogs and the articles, that and I can see why now after you answering that last question. So they're the premier platform for collecting and trading NFTs, and they're carefully curated from the worlds of art, design, entertainment, and definitely sports. This Gareth Bale, there's cricketers was the latest one.
Yeah, just announced a number of
It's
really
hard to
world
keep up
class
a little bit.
cricketers.
Yeah. But yeah, could you just give us some more detail? So can you talk us through this careful selection process, as you say? So how does it work for? So we'll move on to talk about other creators, but say
Yeah.
the creators that were selected before it was open to everybody. How does it benefit them um, and their fans and people who are buying and selling those NFTs?
Yeah, it definitely exposes them to a different fan base. I'd say the crypto.com audience are, they're not always as like heavy crypto centric. They're folks that, maybe they just have Bitcoin or maybe they just have some Ethereum. They don't have 50 altcoins. Some of our folks do, of course, but
Yeah.
these are folks that maybe are, they're not, they're crypto curious more than they are like crypto centric. And
Mm,
so it's just a more of a broad based audience. But then
mm,
we have different, we know we have such a global audience and such a differing demographic. We get really young people, but a lot of, middle-aged folks, and we get folks who are, from all walks of life. So we're trying to bring a very global perspective as well as a very, finding different fandoms that we know we have huge little patches in our audience to go after. The curation really comes from, does this art and does this work speak to us? Do we
mm.
believe in the creator's ability long term to market themselves, to be interesting, frankly,
Yeah,
and tell stories? I think
sure.
storytelling in the NFT space is critical.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
you know,
I'd love to ask you about that later. Yeah, for sure.
we'll get into that in a second. But I think the folks that are most exciting to me, like they lean back in as much as we lean into them, right? They're partners with us. They're doing great marketing on their own. They're not just relying on our audience to show up alone. They're developing their own fans and their own community, and we can accelerate that for them, obviously, or we can take them from their existing fan base and add more folks. And so,
Sure.
for each of the folks we work with, it's a different journey. Some of them it's their first NFT, some of them it's their 10th or 100th NFT, and so we kind of tailor that partnership between each of the creators, really individualized in that sense. So one of the first hires I made, the first hire I made was a creative director who comes from the agency world, but also kind of just broad art world and had spent 2 years in real estate NFTs though. So he already knew about the whole scene and was
Sure.
really like early on at all. And so he comes with both this kind of high art, but agency background where he can think about will this work commercially, but also is it does it have some sort of artistic integrity
Sure.
alongside is this actually interesting for the NFT community and are they going to dig it, right? And
Interesting.
so that kind of thinking is pervades from into all the rest of my team that we've hired since then. So we have some like more independent curators that go out and like look for just scour the internet and Instagram and looking for things that they think are cool and reaching out and trying to find people that they think might work for us, as well as more folks who work on with businesses and
Yeah.
larger organizations as well as agencies that are working with NFT creators. And so kind of those two thrusts, we just look for the best deals on the B2B side where we think, they're going to be successful, we're going to be successful, where maybe innovative, right? We did things with folks like DRESSX where we're doing, an NFT that's an augmented reality, outfit essentially, which is like mind
Sure.
blowing. When I saw that, I
Yeah.
knew
Yeah.
immediately we had to
Absolutely.
do it, right?
Yeah.
And so there's sometimes these companies, there's these people that you're just so excited about. You're like, I have to do this, right? And when we talk to like the professor, it's just like this guy he's just like a beast of a human being, right? And so getting to work with someone like that is just super cool and interesting. And so it's all about are these going to create compelling spectacles for our audience to enjoy, and or do we think this is like a hidden gem and we can accelerate their thing, or is there a story we can tell over a couple drops? And
Mhm.
those are ones of my favorite in particular because I think one of the things I always loved in particularly like music marketing or movie marketing was things like augmented reality games or really just like where they tell this journey and there's secrets hidden in everything. So we've done a couple drops where there's like there's secrets and only a few people know and figure it out, and like
Mhm.
there's like little things encoded in different places. I don't want to spoil any of them, but
Sure.
like
Sure.
there's like little things you can go actually figure out, and maybe they'll
Excellent.
never get figured out, and some of them will obviously be hunted down.
Sounds really good. Sounds really good. Um, and what about so recently actually? So it's any creator can apply. Um,
Yes.
at recently in the last few days, so any creator can now apply to have their work, have their NFTs on crypto.com NFT. So how do you see, like, if you were speaking to creators now? I mean, they've heard from you that you've got guys sifting through, finding cool NFTs and looking for stories. So I think that's really good advice for any creator who wants to get on your platform. But how do you see them utilizing your platform for them and for their fans, really? So how would someone say who isn't a celebrity, so to speak, how would they use your platform to connect with their fans and their community, really?
Yeah, so I think minting with us is a very easy, simple experience. It's like it's really from the idea of from a creator, not necessarily crypto centric person. So it's really simple to understand how to upload the documents. It's not as convoluted as some of the other companies out there where you have to sign in with your MetaMask and do all sorts of funky transactions and pay a bunch of money just to show up on a website, right?
Sure.
Um, we're curating folks that we think have some sort of built-in audience, right? We don't want just people to show up and try to be another speck of dust in our in our space here.
Mm.
We're looking for folks that are are quality producers, aren't going to flood us with just random pictures, although of course as you open up you're going to have a little bit of that. But we're looking for folks that have an eye for marketing. We had a the day we opened up, we already had someone self curate their own drop the day after they joined.
Oh,
They went to our Discord, they dropped it in there. We have a new mints channel, so you're allowed to post one new mint a day. She
mm,
used it as a chance to show off all her drops that day, and she sold out within like 10 or 15 minutes.
wow.
And it looks like she's done one or two NFTs before, but she'd never sold like this. And so, our collector base is pretty rabid, and as long as you're presenting yourself and introducing yourself to our community, I think it's
Sure.
a good chance to
Sure.
actually sell.
Yeah.
Um,
Grabbing an opportunity, it sounds like.
yeah.
Yeah, cool. Um, let's move on to talk about your current and maybe future partnerships and how they've been working out. So we've talked about this. You've mentioned it as well. So new partnerships, new drops on a regular basis. Hard to keep up, like I've already said. Heavy Metal magazine, Gareth Bale doing bicycle kicks at Champions League finals. Sorry, I just love that goal. Snoop Dogg, DRESSX, which I actually want to ask you about DRESSX separately a little bit later on. Aston Martins, I could go on, as you know, I can go on. Tell me why people on the outside should be getting excited about these creators and partnerships launching on crypto.com NFT. Maybe you could tell us about some of the successful drops. I know the heavy metal one, the heavy metal magazine one looks brilliant.
Yeah, that one was really fun.
Yeah,
We
so just tell us a bit about that. How's that's been going, and maybe if
so
you want to tell us about any more after that, that's up to you.
Yeah, I've been a fan of theirs for a long time. Watching the magazine, I met someone who actually owned the magazine for a while, and then he sold it to another guy who's the current CEO, who's a real creator himself. This drop we did was beyond Kuiper, and the CEO he's involved. He's the author of this thing, and so there was such a high level of excitement. You have no idea from him, obviously, and it's its baby, and it's done really well. So it's selling really well in the book stands, but also this drop sold 2120 packs in 20 minutes, and this is a storytelling drop, right? This is
Sure.
all the planets in this universe.
Yeah.
He's got all these other ephemera and canon that he's going to bring into, and it's not ending now. Like, so today we just airdropped a bunch of people who won things from selling to the next stage of the story, which is all these additional parts of this, and there's a lot more planned with both that property, the Beyond Kuiper property, but also a heavy metal genre. We announced we're going to do some stuff with Romero's son. Really cool content, really cool stories. George Romero's The Rise is the property, and it's going to be really exciting to bring that to market right around Halloween, so perfect timing. And then we'll be doing some stuff with some musicians as well, right? Their magazines, it's a confluence of that stuff. So I think where we can't come in there is, we had our editor do a really deep dive about the property, trying to explain who they are to the new folks who've never heard of them, but also just explain this specific thing they're doing. And that's often what we'll do with our really high end drops. We will go to the creators, we'll interview them, we'll really try to dig into what their inspirations were, and help tell the story for them, right? It's nothing better than having someone else tell your story. You can tell your story all you want, but really you need someone else to help you get out all the little bits that are still in your brain. And so that's a lot of what we do, right? It's presenting these stories in a way that if you're on the fence, you're gonna read this extra content, and you're like, I have to buy this, right?
Yeah.
I have to have this, right? It's so cool, it's so interesting. And so we try to do that with everyone we work with. Why is someone like Gareth Bale interesting? Well, yes, he's one of the greatest footballers ever, but like, really, why? Let's talk about the bicycle kicks. Let's get into it, right? Let's really think about what the inspiration for their art that they created was. What is there redeemables? You get something? Can you win something? Oftentimes, especially in sports, we love to juice the excitement levels so that there's some additional jerseys to win or walk on or something fun to do with one of our folks, because there's still a lot of folks that are not ready to really ape into NFTs just yet. But if they see their favorite player or their favorite brand, and they can also get something they would have bought anyway, they're like, oh yeah, okay. And that's part of what crypto.com is all about, right? It's about mainstreaming this, right? We're going to do some niche things, right? We're going to go after some different communities, but really we are trying to mainstream crypto. Yeah. And so a big part of that is getting people over the hump of like, why am I buying an NFT? I mean, we probably have brought in, I don't know, maybe more new NFT buyers than any other business, but I don't know. We'll see. But it just feels like we're getting those folks that are really new. They've heard about it in the news. They read about people. They're like, what's this? They see us doing it, and it's like, well, I'm already here. I'm already using crypto.com to do something.
That sounds absolutely brilliant. Can we talk about the DRESSX partnership?
Yeah.
So I've been just to give an introduction myself, I guess, and I'll let you speak. And hopefully I've gotten this right. You can correct me if I'm wrong. So it was announced recently that NFT collectors using crypto.com, NFTs platform, they can now purchase unique digital fashion items from DRESSX. Now, here's where you can correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm still trying to get my head around a little, but so DRESSX is a digital fashion platform where users can try on digital fashion items using their own photos with a bit or maybe a lot of augmented reality.
Yeah, and some
Am I
AI
wrong?
involved as well. Yeah, that's it. So you think about how you might use a Snapchat filter or an Instagram filter. This takes this to a whole nother level. So the basic level of DressX is that try on the filter, and that's just like the first wave. That's like the it's as if like it works pretty well, right? It works as good as the Instagram filter or whatever, but it's not true to form. There's like always some cutting around somewhere if you don't have it just right. If you're not on like with a white background
Sure.
and perfectly set. Now that's cool. It still looks cool, and like you can still post it on Instagram. It looks all right. What they're really good at, and what the special NFTs, which we did, were they're SpaceX inspired, right? So it's
Yeah,
got the
saw that.
rocket on there. It's got a blazer, and they've got a jumper and some other stuff. Um, they are able to basically hyper realistically retouch those digital fashion collectibles onto you, so it looks like you're really wearing it.
Mm,
And what that means is you can not only do like traditional looking clothing, but they have these couture dresses on there and
yeah,
couture outfits and head dresses that are just truly out of this world and look so cool. And it's
yeah,
like,
sounds fun.
and the colors you can do, prints you wouldn't be able to really do in real life, they can do, something that's like super photorealistic.
Mm,
And so you have all these Instagram influencers now running towards what they're doing, because it is a true sustainable fashion. There's a lot of pushback in the fashion community around these fast fashion things that people are wearing things one or two times for Instagram and
mm.
throwing it away. Like, it's terrible for the environment. This stuff is um you know you can do these outfits and look cool on Instagram for your fans or whatever you need to do, without having to spend 40 gallons of water for a t-shirt, whatever
Yeah,
it is.
sure. Yeah, that sounds really cool. Um, and yeah, one of DressX's co-founders, she talked about how excited she was, and she said blockchain provides. Daria Shapovalova, one of
Yeah, she's awesome.
DressX's co-founders. She said blockchain provides unique possibilities for identifying, owning, and using digital assets, and that is perfectly suited to the digital fashion industry. And she said she's very excited to be working with you guys. So sounds really good. Good luck with that.
Yeah, we'll have more stuff to do with them. We're just getting started.
Yeah,
We also did a crypto.com t-shirt, a silver metallic t-shirt that we
yeah, I saw
gave
that.
to like 100 of our most active collectors at some point. That's gone, the secondary market, of course, has gone a little crazy for those ones, and some of these other
Okay.
ones.
Yeah, sounds like a lot of fun. I might try it out myself sometime.
Give it a shot.
I will. I will. Um, so you brought this up a little earlier, but I'd like just to. I think it's a really important question to ask. When you've already said that, so crypto.com announced a few months ago they want to become carbon neutral within the next couple of years. You said 18 months.
Carbon
Um,
negative, not even neutral. We're going to go negative. So we're going to be,
so
working with all sorts of sustainability providers to make sure we have the right approach on that front. And the reason why we said 18 months is because we want to do it right.
excellent.
It's not something we're just going to go buy carbon offsets and hope for the best. We want to provide, find the right providers
Mm,
where we feel there's real effective use on that front. And there's a great, article we put out about it. And if you're a nut in this world, I think you'll see we're taking it very seriously.
mm. So what I like, I know it's important. So I like, how's it going? First of all, it sounds like it's going very well. Especially if your aims are really really commendable. Um, how important though is it in particular for the crypto.com NFT platform, um, and for the NFT space in general, that it is sustainable and in the
I,
future?
I think, you know, the world the world is warming, and climate change is here, and it is a climate emergency. This is a
Sure.
personal opinion. And
Yeah.
so I'm really excited that we were able to do this. I think you know the nice thing we had going for us on the crypto.org chain, which is the coin that runs crypto.com. It is, because it is a proof of stake rather than proof of work. Like, it's just so much less energy intensive
Mm,
to start. Whereas, a lot of these other folks they are really taking a lot of kilowatt hours just to do one transaction. And then you have the gas fees next to that. So, I think I think the world is speaking to where this needs to go. And I think the very big hubbub we had in the beginning really prevented NFT adoption in the beginning. And so one of the reasons why we did that was because we knew we had to just get this out of people's minds, say, no, no, look, we're doing the right thing here. Even if it is relatively small compared to Ether, Bitcoin, like we still just have to do it.
Yeah.
And we felt it was really important. We heard that feedback from our creators very early on, from the collectors very early on. We moved very quickly to address it. And then we actually did some climate focused charity drops as well. And so, it's important to our company, our CEO, our culture, and I think it's important to the world. So I'm glad we're doing it.
It will. Best of luck with that. Best of luck.
Thanks.
We'll be following that all the way. Absolutely brilliant. So Joe, just I think you've covered lots, everything crypto.com NFT. I have no more questions about that. I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about it again, but
happy to come back. Yeah,
anytime. Yeah, sure. Well, it'll come up again, but
I'd love to come back with some of our creators and maybe do some chats with our creators and
sure.
Maybe some of our collectors one day.
Sounds brilliant, Joe. Love to do that. But I wanted to ask you a few questions. Just I read a couple of interviews that you've done with Billboard, EDM as well.
Yeah.
Thought they were great. But what I do when I read interview articles, I have more questions, and I'm sure more questions will come from this as well. And I think that's the way it should be, so we can dive in and get the details, because I think they're so important. So we'd just like to talk to you about some of the things you talked about when describing the use and the value of NFT for artists. Now, I know in particular you were talking about musicians, but I guess we can cover all artists, especially with the platform the way it is.
Yeah.
But you said in a recent interview that NFTs address a critical gap in today's music landscape. Where you say currently energy is being spent trying to pitch to playlists, and like you said, stories are being lost with this DSP kind of culture. Could you tell us? We'd love to know about this critical gap. Tell us more about how NFTs are going to help artists, musicians, and others retake control and get back to showcasing who they are, and, like we've said already, tell their stories. Why is that so important?
So, I used to work with obviously a ton of artists and songwriters, and I can tell you the top of mind were two things. It was, how do I get on a Spotify playlist? And the biggest one, of course, they always want to be the biggest one. And then, how do I get in film and television? I want to be in a AAA blockbuster. I want to be in a trailer on that. It's like, okay, well, that's not going to happen overnight, obviously. And so a lot of energy is just expelled, just going after this, rather than just building up your canon, your culture, your creativity around what you're doing. I think you've seen the really smart artists, they're leaning into their own social platforms more than they are, say, just working with Spotify. They'll get Spotify because they get their social platforms. And in the same way that is the, content creation is king in the music world, the NFTs provide an amazing avenue for that, right? Because it rewards the content creator to go back to old projects, to revisit things, that they wouldn't maybe otherwise, because their OG fans have moved on or whatever. Now you have a place where there's going to be a relationship between all these different fandoms within an artist to be able to service them and partner with them and, create a more patron-like experience without it being begging. One of the worst parts of I think the modern music industry in the last 10 years has been the preconceived idea that, and I think some people have done it really well, but like the Patreon, the Kickstarter thing, it can be really difficult for some people to get beyond the idea that, like, I have to go beg my fans for more. I need to go ask them for more money. It's like, it feels like a pledge drive. It feels like I'm, public broadcasting saying, do you want to become a member? And instead now with NFTs, it's like, hey, join me on this journey. Come with me on this journey. And like, show me you like it, because you like it and you're buying it because you like it, and not just because I'm asking you to, because I've showed you and you're like, I like that. And so I'm not telling you to buy it. I'm asking you to buy it, but I'm not, begging you to buy it. And so I think that helps change the narrative and the dynamic between fan and creator. And it creates a more a collective around the art, and in the again in the finest way of like the old school Renaissance patronized, world where I'm sure back when Michelangelo was making catapults and trebuchet, there was 10 other guys making trebuchets and catapults, but he had the best ones. So he ended up getting all the money, right? And like people were partnering with him to do all sorts of stuff. And I think you're seeing that in the NFT community. You're seeing, creators collaborate with each other, being able to sell each other NFTs, and then they're both invested in each other's careers. And that's super, super exciting. This is the closest we have to this is our modern art movement, right? This is our Tangier. This is our beat poetry movement. This is it. This is different. It's on the internet and it's everywhere and it's very global.
Yeah.
And it's fast, but it's really exciting.
Absolutely, totally agree. Glad to be on the journey and sharing the journey. Absolutely.
Likewise.
And what kind of reactions are you getting from musicians who say maybe have never heard of NFTs? How's their reaction?
First they're scared, then they're curious, and then they start to get excited. It's a journey. They see their friends do it maybe, and they see them make a ton of money, or they see them fail at it, and they're like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to look bad. Every creator has their own feeling with it. I've had the coolest indie band project run. They got scared, they got cold feet, and I've had these mega bands that I had to just say no because their idea was terrible. It's been a mix of like how people get into the space, and it's going to take people a long time, and that's okay. Take your time, do it right.
Yeah, absolutely great. So another thing I wanted to ask you about, which I thought was really interesting. So you said in another interview, you've kind of touched on it, I think, but you said that you'll guide creators to taking a more, maybe this is what you mean by the bands going a bit wild. You'll guide NFT creators to take a more measured approach in a crowded market, as we know, and it's getting more crowded. You said they need to be careful how they do it, and do it tastefully. So how will crypto.com NFT guide creators in a more measured and tasteful approach? And why do they need to take this approach?
Look, a lot of the folks are coming to us the first time, and we've done this enough time. Early on we didn't know what we were doing either, but now we've done over 100 plus drops. We've seen the trends. We know what we're doing now, and I'm not saying we're going to be right every time. But we've learned a lot what you shouldn't do and what you should do, and what works right now and what is working versus what used to work even 3 months ago is different. It's always changing. We're watching these trends, so we're advising our creators on where we feel like the market is, and where we feel like collector sentiment it is, where we feel like the trend is. And so what worked in terms of art and culture 3-4 months ago doesn't work. We don't have to do everything. I have people hitting me up constantly. We have a huge backlog of people we could work with. We want to work with the best people. So if they didn't want to do it their own special way and don't want to listen to us, that's great. Go do it on your own. And we've had people do that, and some of them had great success, some of them had total flops. I don't want to see anyone not be successful. And so when we're trying to give people advice here, we want to make sure that we think it's good for them, good for their collectors, good for their short term, and good for the long term. That's the really important thing. I think early on in this, people thought this was a fad, it was a bubble, it was going to go away. They went out and they just did these dumb, huge, big cash grabs, and those aren't interesting. They wasn't interesting, and they're going to have a hard time getting back in the space, because when they realize this is forever, this is a real thing, this is going to be the next super cycle of creativity and art. And so, we're really trying to prevent people from, getting in their own way, and and just also trying to make sure there's some people who are too humble and won't price high enough, and there's other people who are way too ambitious, and we're like, no, you got to take it down, and then take it down some more.
Excellent. All right. One more question, Joe, if you don't mind. I know
I've got to jump right after this.
Your Friday. So we know NFTs, they're gaining in popularity. They're becoming huge. They're being utilized in dynamic NFTs, new innovation constantly going on. So there's a question we like to ask our knowledgeable and experienced guests like yourself, Joe. So in one of those interviews, I think it was one of those interviews, you mentioned like people may be wearing NFTs on their wrists and like a watch. Um, I love the idea of walking into a friend's house with your augmented reality glasses on, um, and having some like immersive NFT collection revealed as you walk into Mary's house on a Friday. I love the sound of that.
I think we're closer to that than even when I said that. I thought that was maybe 3, 4, 5 years out. It could be sooner with Facebook and
Yeah.
all these other Samsung coming out with new goggles. Someone's gonna crack that. You know, Twitter announced that they're gonna get into NFTs, showing and authenticating potentially.
Mhm.
That could drive that whole piece of commerce there.
So like I'm pretty sure. I think I know what you're sure about. You're very confident. But the question is, over the next 5 years, what are you sure about in regards to NFTs? And maybe more interestingly, what are you unsure about?
I'm sure there's going to be some really, really good times and some really, really hard times. This is a new market. We are figuring it out.
Mm.
People are going to go from hot to cold to hot to cold and run from one project to the next project and run one area of focus. And PFPs are hot as hell right now. Is that going to be the case in a month or two? I don't know. Maybe they're forever. And I'm unsure about that. One thing I'm really unsure about is how fast will the biggest IPs make this their this is their live. This is the first thing they do, right? Time Magazine having a big banner at the top doing an art show, that's wild, but it's incredible. Having these stalwart brands really start to see they can really do this, and this, they have the resources to be good in this space, is going to change the face of brands, of IP owners, creators. You're going to see a lot of, I think, legacy players totally fumble it, and then I am unsure who will be the winners in the new world, and I'm excited to see who those folks are. We're going to have a Star Wars, we're going to have a Hobbit come out of the NFT world, and it's going to change the way people think about everything.
Awesome. Yeah, very exciting stuff. Joe Conyers, it's been a pleasure having you on. Really.
Likewise. Let me know if I can ever come back.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Really enjoy talking to you, and loads of great information there for our viewers and for everybody who watches. Joe, I'll let you get on with your Friday. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks so much.
Happy Friday. I hope we can chat again at some stage in the future.
You let me know.
Best of luck with all the drops and the platform and everything.
I appreciate it. You too. Can't wait to see this. Take care. Bye bye.
Take care. See you, Joe. Bye bye.